on September 10th, there's a full moon in Pisces and nothing else. There's no square from Uranus. There's no conjunction with Mars. This could be a peaceful, happy full moon. Okay. Yes, Mercury is retrograde, and Mercury is retrograde in Virgo. And so, yes, that can cause some disruption. So let's talk about it. Hi, everyone. I'm Donna Stellhorn, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you today about the full moon. It's on September 10th. It's at 7 degrees of Pisces, and we're going to do a short overview and then go sign by sign. So we've all been through a lot over the last few weeks, months, and actually the last few years. And so the way nature works is that there is a period of strong growth and then there is a lull. And every once in a while we will get a little bit of a lull. Now, this is just where we can kind of catch our breath and then go into another growth season. This is also quite common during a tiger year, which we're in. We're in the year of the water tiger. And so tigers, like any cats, are highly, highly active. And so there's a lot of energy and moving and going in different directions. And then it's time for a cat nap. And so this is kind of the energy that we're seeing. Pisces moon is a little bit more quiet and solitary and also looking for peace, as well as no external aspects going on that are really pulling this chart apart. Now, the interesting thing is the Mercury retrograde, which does cause us to go back and look at what we can redo, rethink, redesign, reinvent. And so there's, again, this energy of having to go back and reflect. And so, but with our crazy busy schedules, we don't usually leave time for this reflection, and that's why things can feel a little bit more chaotic than possibly they could with a normal Pisces moon. So Pisces is a really interesting sign because when we look at the wheel of the zodiac signs and we start on Aries, Aries is very much about self-care and what you need. And then it moves and a quarter of the way through, we get to Cancer, which is about caring for family and those that you love. And then it continues, and at the halfway mark, we're then caring for others, the relationships. And then when it gets to the top of Capricorn, then we are caring through our work and our service to others. And then finally we get to Pisces, and that's where all the boundaries are gone, where we understand that we are part of the universe and the things that we do reverberate through the universe, that the energy waves that we put out reflect back to us. And so that is what we're putting out there into the world, and what we get back, there is some harmony in that and some lessons as well. Now, this is the full moon, and the full moon is the halfway point of the lunar cycle. So over the first 2 weeks between the new moon and the full moon is about growth, and it's about, gaining things and pulling energy in. And then at the full moon, which is kind of like the party, like the whole 2 weeks was getting ready for the party and inviting people and getting all the food ready and cleaning up the house and getting everything ready. And then the full moon is the party. And that is, everything is going on. And as the party's happening, you take a breath and you go, ah. And then you go into 2 weeks of winding down, of letting go, of releasing, of assessing, until you get to the new moon. So this mirrors that pause that we were talking about, the tiger's little cat nap. So then another thing about the full moon is it really shows us the reflective quality of the moon. The moon doesn't give off any light of its own. It is all reflections of the sun. So it's reflections of something outside of us. And so that is that what we are attracted to, what we're drawn to has a message for us. And so that means everything. The things that you watch on YouTube, the books that you read, the people that you're drawn to and their lives, what hobbies you like, what work you're interested in. All of these things are signals about what's going on inside of you. And sometimes these signals are something that we are very happy about, where we're happy about what we're attracting. But if you're attracting something that you're not happy with, that is a time for you to shift directions. That's just a sign that says the universe is saying you're just not quite on the right path and you want to make a course correction. So Pisces is mutable water. And with mutability, what we have is that ability to go back and forth, to do different things, to make changes. Water is about feelings and emotion and intuition. And when we combine these two, what we're talking about is water's ability to go from one state to another. So in a very scientific sense, that would be ice going to liquid to going to gas, so solid liquid to gas. And so that's kind of what the Pisces energy is about. Sometimes things are solid and sometimes they are not. And so when we look at Pisces, we picture a fog, and that is water in this gaseous state. And the interesting thing about a fog is how it alters our perceptions. It blurs the boundaries or the lines between things. And so when you look at the fog, the trees seem to morph into something else, and then one tree blurs into another. And so this idea is that there are no boundaries, and that is no boundaries between you and another person, and that's why Pisces is about psychic ability. It is about no boundaries between you and, say, a virus, and that's why Pisces can be about illness, and why there is no boundaries between you and what you would call discipline, and so that's why Pisces is about addictions. And then it's also about there's no boundaries between you and this physical plane and all the other planes of existence. And so that's why Pisces is about spirituality, because it's about you reaching beyond just the physical. So Mercury is going retrograde, and it is going retrograde on September 9th, and it will be retrograde until October 2nd. And it is going retrograde first in Libra, and then it will back up into Virgo. And I am filming this about 2 weeks before this is happening, and I have had so many calls of people already feeling this retrograde, because I think that when Mercury goes retrograde in its own sign, which it will be when it's back in Virgo, it can be incredibly intense. So also, we're right in that shadow now where, as I'm filming this, where this is a point where Mercury will cross back over. And so we're already aware that, oh, I'm leaving something unfinished, or this needs to be thought through again, or I need to redo this. And so there's a bunch of catch-up that we're going to have to do during this time. So the gist of Mercury retrograde is to focus on redoing things, going back over things, but also doing things that you want to repeat. Because Mercury goes retrograde 3 or 4 times a year, and it will compel you to go back to something you've done before. So what you want to do on a retrograde is anything you want to repeat. And so that means you could go on a vacation. So it's just your luggage may go to another destination than you, so have important things with you. Don't check those bags. But it's mostly about avoiding doing things you don't want to repeat. So, that's why we say try not to have car repairs on Mercury retrograde, because then you get into a cycle of needing more repairs and more repairs and more repairs. So myself and another astrologer, Tammy Margaro, we wrote a series of books on this, including a book about Mercury retrograde, and I will leave a link in the description. I had to redo that. Also, my tarot program is up and available. This course is more than 100 videos on how to read the tarot. You can jump around and, just look at certain card interpretations, or you can look at how to read cards in general. And I have also put up some videos on YouTube of pick a card videos so that you can see my reading style and see if that resonates with you and see if you want to learn to read like I do. And so that link is in the description. I also have a link to my course, Finding the Hidden Money in Your Chart. I write columns for horoscope.com and astrology.com, so hope you check those out. And of course, I do readings, and so please let me know if you're interested. Again, links are in the description. And just to let you know, we are doing Western tropical astrology. We're going to go sign by sign. If you know your rising sign, your ascending sign, it would be good to listen to that. That's going to be more about what's happening to you, whereas the sun sign is going to be more about things to consider. Now, if you need a copy of your chart, you can send me your birth information and I'll send you a PDF. Okay, let's go sign by sign. Okay, Aries, this full moon sits in your house of spirituality, psychic ability, but also your inner self as you are connecting to the greater universe. And so this is very much a reminder of basically how big the world is. And so it is to say to you that, if you're looking for a job or a relationship and you are zeroed in on one thing, that it's time to expand your view, to look at how many different ideas and opportunities are out there and how many people are out there. It's so many people. And so this is about widening that view. One of the gifts of Aries is your focus, and you sometimes can be quite laser focused, but there is a benefit sometimes in asking yourself those questions of, what else is out there? What's an alternative to what I'm thinking of? Or what's the opposite of what it is that I want? And is that a possibility? This is also about time and how time itself also is this greater thing than the moment. And so this is about sitting on your timeline and thinking back into the past and thinking into the future. And so if you look at how much you've changed over the last few years, it's quite probable that your life could change that much going forward. And so you might be fixated on something at the moment, but when you look at it going forward, you might say, well, will I care about this in 2 years or 5 years or in 30 years? And so this is where things come into perspective. And while it's good to be in the present moment, it is also good to have an eye on that timeline. So overall, basically what this full moon is about is stepping outside for a second and being the observer of your life and asking yourself those questions of, am I being too focused on one outcome? Am I looking at something and saying this absolutely must occur in this exact way? Or are you being open to the possibilities? And that's where the blurring of the lines can come in handy, because that means that other things can come in. Now, when we look at Mercury retrograde, it's in your house of relationships. And so this can mean that somebody from your past is coming and maybe wanting to try things again, or maybe just reconnecting with you. This could be someone that you dated before, were married to before, or this may be not a love relationship, but a friendship reconnecting or a business partner reconnecting. This also is if you are looking for maybe a job or, expanding your business, that maybe you want to reach out to people you've worked with before and make a connection that way. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the sun's making a square to Mars, and so there is some good activity and energy here Mars is in the house of communication, and that means go out and make that first contact. Go out and do something. Squares indicate action is what brings the results. And so that once you start this ball rolling, the things could really take off rather quickly. So there's some very good energy. And because that Mercury is retrograde in a relationship house, that might mean that you run into somebody that you had considered dating in the past, but it just never worked out. And so now it may work out. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is making a square to Mars. And so, again, we've got a lot of very strong energy when it comes to relationships. Now, that Mercury retrograde in your house of relationships may bring up issues from the past, but it is doing so that you can work them out. This is a time where you can have really meaningful discussions and strengthen your relationship so that you are not necessarily just going back into the same old fight, but you are looking at things from a different perspective because of that Pisces moon. And so maybe you are able to put yourself in their shoes and they're able to put themselves in your shoes. Wow, complicated little switch there, but you know what I mean. So because empathizing with each other is the key to deepening this love relationship. Now, when it comes to home and family, we see a lot of activity because the moon is making a square to Mars. Mars is in that house of education, and so that could be that school is rolling along, and so you are adjusting to all the new routines and things like that during a Mercury retrograde time, which means a lot of things have to be done over, or however you started something, maybe you're doing a redo. And so that is a lot of activity at home. There may be some issues with vehicles at this time, and it's really tough to go get car repairs or even get a new vehicle during Mercury retrograde. So you may be trying to extend the life of your vehicle just a little while longer so that you can get past the retrograde. Of course, if this is an emergency, then you have to do it, but you try to take as many precautions as you can. Specifically with Mercury retrograde would be get a warranty. Once you have that, then you can more safely go through the process during Mercury retrograde. When it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Venus in your house of work. So that means, of course, the more you work, the more money you make. Venus is in Virgo, and that is helping you get all the details done. Now, you still have Uranus going through this house, and that means there could be sudden surprises of monies as well as bills. And so this Venus in Virgo this time may be talking about finding a way so you're not surprised anymore, maybe by having a sinking fund or maybe getting things all in a budget so that you're not surprised when that one of those annual subscriptions comes through and knocks your finances for a loop. So this also may be that sudden chunks of money come in, and so you do want to be watchful for those as well. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or money from your business, the South Node is sitting up there, and Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto. And so you're basically doing the same things you've always done. Now, this is interesting during a Mercury retrograde period because you could be falling back into an old habit or maybe putting everything on the back burner for the moment, not paying as much attention because other things are going on. And so if that's the case, you're making about the same as usual. Or you might be making slightly less, but it's not something where I think it would be more that you would expect it, maybe because it's seasonal or maybe because there's more outgo right now. So, but most of this says that your focus is elsewhere, and so things are just kind of humming along, but you do want to watch out if you are doing too much the same old way, because with that Mercury retrograde, that would indicate it's time to change things up a little. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, and that would be like a paycheck, you have Saturn in that house, and that does restrict energies, especially because Venus is not making an aspect with Uranus right now. So what's happening is if you're asking for more money, they're just going to load you down with more obligations and more responsibilities. So you need to weigh that a little carefully. So additionally, because of the retrograde, It's probably not the best time to be asking at the moment. When this retrograde does go back, it's going to end up making a difficult aspect to that Saturn. So I think you're making about the same as usual. Again, maybe a little bit less because you're not working so many hours. Maybe you're working on a side business or doing something else. And but it's not the best time to be asking for a raise because they're going to give you a lot of extra work. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. While Venus is not making an aspect to the sun, they are in the same sign. And so that Venus is going to catch up with the sun. So right now, there's more of a promise of something. There you can see it out there, but you can't quite get your hands on it. So, but this is going to line up. It's going to take a few weeks before it does, but when it does, that's when your payday is. So right now, this is more about doing the work that's necessary to get this project going. And also to keep a very watchful eye on it during Mercury retrograde to see what is shifting and changing. Okay, Taurus, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of friendships. It's also about community and the future. And so when it comes to friendships, this is where you want to deepen friendships through unconditional love. And that is that you may have been giving and giving, and if you really want this friendship, you're going to have to give some more. If you feel that this is something that is never going to satisfy you emotionally or fulfill you in some way, then yes, it may be time to move on. And that would be kind of a drifting on, because this is Pisces. And so this would be that you don't tell the person, that's it, I'm leaving, because that's a hard boundary. But that would be that you wouldn't respond as much and you would gravitate towards other connections. But if this is a relationship that you value, this is a time for you to open up and be there for that person. This is also about the community and being more involved in the community. Pisces energy is very much about helping those who need help. And so it's about going in, doing charitable works, or doing, things to make the community more lovely and peaceful and friendly and happy. And so these sort of things can be very helpful. When we're looking at your future, it's interesting because this is where we're seeing so many different possibilities. Now, because this is full moon energy, it's possible that you have recently achieved some sort of milestone. And so it's kind of like you're at the top of a little hill. You can see other hills in the distance. And so it's time for you to just take a breath, congratulate yourself on your achievements, and then set off to the next achievement that you want. So this is a time to if you're making your goal list, to remind yourself of the things that you have accomplished. Now, Mercury is retrograde in your house of work and routines, and so that's where all the disruption is going to happen. And so that is poor communication with coworkers, difficulty with computer systems that you need to communicate with people, or, that you have so much work that you're just, trying to get everything done. So it's a very busy time. And I think that overall what you're going to find is that you are so busy with that, it's going to be hard to pay attention to anything else, because when it's like there's extra retrograde for you this time. And so anything that you can do to streamline or delegate or eliminate some of the things that you're doing, really look at the task and say, does this need to be done now? Can it wait? So, and I think that will help you weather that sort of, task storm that you're in. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Mercury retrograde, which is the blessing that Taurus gets, because that means that it's a repeat customers. It is money from a source you've had before. And so this is why Taurus is generally the sign of money, because when that retrograde happens, you can be pulling in money from sources you've had in the past. Additionally, Mars is going through your house of money, and it's going to be doing that until March 25th. I mean, that is a huge amount of time. And so this is one of the reasons that you are so busy right now, because there is so many opportunities for you. Financial opportunities, work opportunities, career opportunities in general. So we're really liking a lot of that. It's going to be a little bit, but there's going to be a point where this Mars lines up with Saturn, bringing you a great career opportunity. So that's coming up in the future. And but for this time, you have more work and more money opportunities than you usually have. Okay, I did that totally out of order. I never do that. I was so excited to tell you that information that I skipped love. So let's go and do love here. And that is, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, that energy is a semi-sextile between Venus and Mercury. And so it's interesting that while Venus is there and it is bringing you love opportunities, it's just not fitting into your schedule very easily. Now, it is an aspect, so if you work at it, if you do the little details, you can get this done. And that means you could meet somebody who's really interesting, intriguing, good chemistry, and then maybe just kind of string them along a little bit until you can get a window where you can actually meet this person. So, but there is some good energy here. You just have to get over that semi-sextile, that little bit of scheduling issues that you have. Okay, when it comes to existing love relationships, Venus is not making an aspect to Pluto. And, it's just the south node there. Like everything you're doing, you're just doing as you normally do. I think that there's so much disruption and activity going on in just your daily life. You're just like trying to get everything done. It's like you and your partner aren't really having any time for each other. And for the moment, that's okay, because you're just settling into an old routine and you're not needing to really work on things. That will come outside this 2-week period. When that does, then you'll have better energy for working on it. Now, when it comes to home and family, it's interesting energy because the Venus and Sun are not making an aspect, but they are in the same sign. And so it's not like everybody's completely on the same page. It's like you're trying to get your kid in the car and you say, go get your shoes on, and instead they go get a video game. So it's, there's some things that are a little bit of a disconnect, but that Venus is going to move closer to the Sun. And so outside the 2-week period, you're going to find more harmony. But for this 2 weeks, it's still a little bit of a disconnect. Okay, I already talked about your money, jumping ahead there because I was so excited about that. But just to reiterate, it is very, very good for your money opportunities. And that, of course, includes money from traditional investments and money from your business, because Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter. So there are some really good money opportunities. Many of these will come from either things you've been working on for a while that you worked on in the past, or from repeat customers. So there is definitely some opportunities there. The same with your traditional investments. These might be things that you invested in the past, maybe months ago, maybe years ago, and now they are paying off for you. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, which is like a paycheck, the full moon is there. So things are lit up, but there's no aspect between Mercury and Neptune. So that means that you might be talking about the raise, but you're not getting the positive response yet, because the money that's out here is not hitting your paycheck. So, and I think this means that there's kind of a spotlight right now on your job, and you may be seeing other people being hired in at a higher salary, and this might cause you to be considering whether you're going to stay. Now, it's probably not good to change jobs during Mercury retrograde, because that retrograde energy could cause you to change over and over and over again. But it is a perfect time to be rethinking your job and to looking for a time outside of the retrograde to ask for the raise that you're looking for. So this is not a time where I'm seeing you make much more money unless you're working a lot of extra hours. And even then, the payment for those extra hours is probably outside this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. This is where you have that Venus Sun, which are not conjunct, and they are suggesting that you really want to do something, the Sun and Venus always want to play and have a good time. And this energy is ruled by that retrograde Mercury. And so this is about going back over things, especially if you're starting something. If you're getting into a business, go back over the numbers, interview the people again. If you're thinking of hiring, interview the people again. If you are thinking about launching something, this is only a time to do a soft launch. And that is to tell a few people about it, but not necessarily do a big announcement. So this is a time where you want to be kind of careful, because there may be some typos or some language that's not correct, or some pictures that are in the wrong place. Those are the things you can spot during this time, and then pretty soon you'll be moving forward. Okay, Gemini, you guys are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of career. And this is where you're combining some spiritual energy and your life lessons and your path with what you do. So, and I think that it's very interesting, because oftentimes we are looking for, what's the thing that I should be doing? What is the, I often get those calls about, what's my life purpose, or, what's my path? And so, but this is indicating to look at what you do now and see the spiritual or deeper meaning in it. And that is that the universe, in its wisdom and its conservation of energies, finds a way to give us our spiritual lessons no matter what we're doing. And I've seen this so many times where a person may say that, they're in a job, but it's not a spiritual job, and they want to go do something spiritual, but maybe they're in sales. And so, but the spiritual lesson that they are learning in their sales job is what has value and what could be offered to someone. And what do you believe is worthy of offering to somebody? And so all of these different spiritual lessons are in that sales job. And when they recognize those spiritual lessons, then poof, they can go do something else. And it's the same thing. Like if you are an accountant, then you are learning what has value and how to assign value to something. And where does that go? How to organize things in your life. Or when we think of the professional organizer, that this person is learning how the internal emotions or issues that a person has is actually very visible externally in their stuff, and how each and every item has a connection to them emotionally or physically. And so that as the person lets go, and people who are doing professional organizing, they're learning how to let go as they teach other people how to let go. And we can just go all the way down through all the professions, and there's always some sort of spiritual meaning. The plumber who is learning how to get the gunk out of their lives, how to make things flow. So, or the police officer who is learning how to read people and to empathize with their situation, and when to use force and when not to use force. So all of these different lessons are coming. And so looking at what you do, your current profession, and what you want to do, and looking at the spiritual lessons, because again, if you're doing something you're not that happy with it, find those lessons and learn those, because then the universe can say, poof, you're done. Let's move on to the next set of lessons. Now, when it comes to Mercury retrograde, it's going through your house of risk-taking and romance. And so there could be some opportunities coming back that maybe you passed up before, maybe you thought it wasn't the right time, and it probably wasn't. And now it could be a better time. So it's also possible that it's just time for you to have some fun again. Like maybe you've been really nose to the grindstone and really working, and it's just time for you to enjoy life again. So this is also your area of children, and so there may be a lot of activity around kids. Of course, If they're off at school, maybe you're picking them up, dropping them off, getting homework done, etc. So, and this is also, that you might be around kids more. So that might mean that your kids are bringing home other kids, and so, or you're doing play dates or things like that. So that's where we're seeing that retrograde energy both help and disrupt your life. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Venus is making a semi-sextile to that Mercury. So there's some opportunities here from somebody probably that you had maybe seen their profile before and you passed them up. Maybe you talked for a little bit and they disappeared and now they're back. So it's a semi-sextile, so some little details have to be worked out. Maybe that's in scheduling. It's also possible, though, that there's still something that you're not sure about with this person, and probably meeting them is the best way that you would then instantly know whether this is, something to move forward on or not. So you do have an opportunity because it is making an aspect, and the retrograde means that this may be somebody that you have met once before. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter. So the two of you are coming together to work out something you have done before. Now, that could be that this is an old argument coming back, and so that you guys need to work this out. Or this is that you're working together on a project and you have done similar things in the past. So this is good energy because there's a lot of communication going on. You're discussing new ideas. You are rethinking some of the decisions you've been making, or maybe rethinking how you are saying something to each other. So you're changing it up so that what you're saying could be heard and understood by your partner. Now, when it comes to home and family, you have the Sun, Venus there, and it's ruled by that Mercury retrograde, so that is pretty chaotic energy. Lots and lots going on. You might be sending kids off to school as well as doing some home renovations. Maybe you're doing a big declutter, and so there are things in piles all over the place, or you've decided to go paperless, and so you're scanning papers and things like that. So lots and lots of activity at home. It looks generally like pretty joyful activity. These are nice planets. So I think that, in the whole process, you're seeing some results, but it does look quite busy. So when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that full moon right at the top of your chart, which means that, first of all, you are very noticeable. So if you want to get a new job, this is the time to send out that resume and send it out with that little prayer or meditation or affirmation. Add that little spiritual element to it, and that can really help. So this also says that you can be more visible at your current job. And so if you are looking for some recognition, this is a time where it is more expected because you're easier to be seen. So that also means, of course, if you're thinking about playing hooky, you could be seen also. So be a little careful about that. But the bigger message here is to look at your job from that spiritual lens that we were talking about before, and see what those things that you are gaining, the spiritual lessons that you're gaining from the job itself, so that you can move on to the next lessons and the next opportunities. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, the moon's making a semi-sextile to Saturn. And so this is that more money is made by paying attention to the little details and stepping just slightly outside your comfort zone. This is probably where the comfort zone is getting challenged the most, is in delays. With that retrograde plus the semi-sextile, it's probable that you're waiting for paperwork or a contract or somebody to call you back, and you need to work on other things while you're waiting and not just sit by the phone or drum your fingers on the desk, but to look at ways that you can step back and ask yourself, what else can I do while I'm waiting? But overall, I'm seeing you making more money over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money from your career, that would be a paycheck. This is very good energy because the moon is making a square to Mars, and the moon is elevated and Jupiter's in that house. This is one of your best times to ask for a raise. Now, the Only thing is that I do see that you may be thinking about moving on and doing something else. And so you're kind of thinking, I don't want to ask for a raise if I could be leaving this job. So that's the only where you're kind of going back and forth. And so I would say, then you need to get your resume posted and start interviewing to see what's out there. But yeah, I do think that you have a good chance of getting a raise if you ask for one over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they are highly leveraged or time sensitive. The moon's not making an aspect with Venus, and Mercury is retrograde in that house. So it says rethink this before you move forward. Go back over paperwork or go back over the proposal or the contract. Look at things again. If you're thinking about doing a launch, go over things again. Look at your portfolio. Look at your shopping cart or whatever you're building to display your artwork. Look at those things again. There may be typos. There may be provisions in a contract you hadn't seen. So this is your opportunity to rethink this. And so this is, don't move forward without checking things a second time. Okay, Cancer, you guys are doing this full moon up in your house of education, travel, legal matters, but it's also wisdom. And this is about your search for understanding and how this search can take you into places where you get conflicting information. And so this is a big world with lots and lots of diverse opinions. And so sometimes we need to go through life and say, okay, that person believes exactly opposite I do, and that's okay. And this Pisces energy says that there may be some places where you do come together, where you say to yourselves, all right, you're on the opposite sides of the aisle, but there are a few things that we agree on. This can also be, though, that it's challenging some of your absolutes to move these from an absolute, this absolutely must be true, to I would prefer this to be true, or it would be nice if this was true. And so that you can open yourself up to new information. And that allows the universe to step in and give you what you're looking for, which is information, opportunities, and, of course, wisdom. Now, where everything else could be a little bit fuzzy, but possibly in a good way, is in school, where you are listening to lectures and coming up with bigger ideas from what the teacher is saying. Maybe you're going through history class and you're seeing how history is repeating, or something in math class reminds you of how to put together a recipe. So there is somehow the different disciplines are blending into each other. And this could happen that on a trip you have a spiritual experience. Or you find out some really interesting information if you're doing some sort of legal matter. So all of this comes together with, this is the area that's highlighted. It is looking for you to expand your ideas, and that is by letting go of this is the only way it could be and looking at diverse opinions. Now, when we look at Mercury retrograde, it's happening in your area of home and family. And so where this is kind of disruptive energy is in there, first maybe at the dwelling, maybe something that you thought was repaired breaks again, or maybe you have some sort of pest that you thought you got rid of and now that's back. It's also possible that somebody who moved out is moving back in, and so again, you have these kind of disruptions going on. It's also a great deal of activity going on in the home. And that might be that, like kids are studying now, and so there's that sort of noise or change in the schedule. So that's where we're seeing all of this major Mercury retrograde activity going on. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the moon's not making an aspect to Pluto, and the south node is there. And so one of the issues is that you may be stuck with just thinking that you want somebody from the past. Maybe it's somebody very specific, like somebody you dated or somebody you saw, in the world somewhere. And you're stuck on that idea and not seeing the vastness of how many people are on this planet now. And so that south node just keeps pulling you back into something that you've had before versus new love. Now, this energy is going to improve as we go forward, but right now it's just about being aware of if you're stuck thinking about the past, or if you're stuck with a very limited view of what the possibilities are for love relationships. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making a semi-sextile to Saturn. And so this is the two of you coming together to work at all the details in life, the disruption that we saw at home, kids going off to school, maybe you're going off to school, and just even if you're not going to formal university, there's something that happens in September for all of us where we think we should be in school. And so, that might mean you getting a video course or one that you bought already that you haven't been looking at. And so, learning some new things. So, and maybe you could do this together as a couple. This is where that semi-sextile could mean that your schedules aren't really lining up and that you have to look for those moments of quality time between the two of you. When it comes to home and family, we already talked a little bit about all the disruption that the retrograde Mercury was doing there. The moon's not making an aspect with Venus, and so generally there's a little bit of a disconnect, and that is why it's frustrating. Is it's hard to get repair people right now. It may be hard to find a place that you want to move to. It may be hard to get a place ready to sell, or there's just more challenges. And all it means is you just have to devote a little bit of extra time and energy to this to make it happen, because without that aspect, it's not happening that easily. And so also look, of course, with that full moon of where you're saying something absolutely must happen, and maybe adjust your timetable a little bit to make it a little easier on yourself. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from the sun in your house of communication. And so many ideas can come to you right now. Money-making ideas. You might stumble onto a video that says, this is a way to make money that you never considered before. But this also is about watching your thinking process. So this sun is in Virgo, and so it says to look at the details. And so if you are saying things to yourself of, there's no good money opportunities out there, everything's too expensive, I'm going to drown in inflation, or any of these negative thoughts, then your body reacts to that. And that does not help you solve the problem. It would be much better to be looking at how you are speaking to yourself, and to speak to yourself with this energy of, lots of people make money in recessions. Lots of millionaires come into being during hard times. And so what is the solution to other people's problems, and how can I make money from it? Those sort of questions are going to propel you forward. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or your business, the sun is making a trine to Uranus. So you're likely making more money than usual over the next 2 weeks. And this is because of things that you've been doing in the past. And that is also because you're paying attention to these different, paperwork that comes in, different signs in the market. Also, when a customer calls, you're getting back to them because the sun is in your house of communication. And so you have really good energy for this for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, which would be like a paycheck, the energy is not quite here yet because the sun's not making an aspect to Venus, but it will. It's going to form later. I think it's a few weeks yet. It's definitely outside this 2-week period. And so that means it's not quite time to ask for a raise. It's not quite time to ask for more hours, but they are coming. And because these two planets are coming together, it may come to you. So this would be more of putting a wish out to the universe and just then releasing it, and let this addition, the opportunity, the promotion, etc., come to you. And when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. The sun's not making an aspect to Pluto, and the south node is still sitting in this house. And what that means is you're kind of stuck in a little loop of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so it's time to start to branch out and think of what you can do differently. So if you have put novels out on Amazon and they've done okay and you're getting ready to do another one, how can you change it up a little bit? You know, maybe release it as a series, or maybe do a premiere, or maybe put it into videos or audio or something. Like, what can you do that's different? And the same thing is if you were looking to buy a business, is if you are going through the negotiations as you always do, maybe thinking of how somebody else might do those negotiations. Like if you were a multimillionaire, how would you approach these negotiations? If you were, you know, some celebrity, how would you approach these negotiations? So embodying something different as a way to break out of a routine, I think will help you. So right now, you know, the prospects of everything seem very quiet because the universe wants you to go back and try to get out of this rut. So I shouldn't even say go back. It just basically, it's a shift of direction is needed. Okay, Leo, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of resources from others. This is also about power and control. So, and we talk about this house a lot. It's the 8th house, in case you guys wanted to know, about investments, credit, debt, things like that. So this, though, when we look at the bigger picture, it's resources from others. And so this is where we're removing the boundaries between you and all the resources of the universe. How wonderful is that? So, and how that's done is by aligning your energy with those resources. And that can start with just an awareness of all the resources that are around you. And so you might want to take a day or several days during the week and look at the different things in your life and the resources that you have available. And because I think a lot of times it's easy to go into a place of lack because we are bombarded with pictures of everybody who has more than us. And so that can put us in this idea of feeling very disadvantaged, or, you know, that things are not fair, which definitely fairness is not part of this world. That's very clear for everybody. So, but by shifting the mindset of looking at just the very mundane things in your life of, you know, indoor plumbing, you know, what a gift that is. And you open the fridge and there's food there. And so what a gift that is. And the cat comes in and says hi. And so you have that sense of community and connection. And so there's this sort of mindset that you can get into. And what happens is it shifts your mind to look for opportunities and abundance everywhere. And suddenly things open up. And so that's one of the best uses for this full moon, is to widen your perspective when it comes to resources. Now, where Mercury is retrograde is in your house of paperwork and communications, also siblings, neighbors, short distance travel. So this is your vehicle. So there may be some things you're thinking about with your vehicle. Maybe you're thinking about changing vehicles. It's also, though, looking through paperwork, maybe, moving to a paperless system, maybe automating bills, maybe reviewing some contracts. Maybe a contract is coming due, or that you need to look at a contract because you're looking to get out of the contract, or maybe move, and so you're looking at your lease. So any of these things, so paying attention to paperwork, all these types of things are going to come back to you, and because it's retrograde. And so one of the things that's most common with this is that your driver's license expires, or your tags for your car expire, or some other, like your passport expires, something like that, where suddenly you, with everybody else who had forgotten about it because of the retrograde, they're all in line at DMV at the same time. So try to make an appointment, because the lines at DMV during a Mercury retrograde can be gigantic. So, but this is the kind of thing you're doing with that Mercury retrograde. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, the sun's not making an aspect with Jupiter. There's nothing in that house right now. And so basically the energy seems to be elsewhere. If you're looking for love, this, I think what you're going to attract with that full moon in your house of intimacy is somebody who wants an intimate relationship quite quickly. And so you have to decide whether that's something that you want. You may want to just try to put the brakes on it, and then that other person may hang out and wait for you, or they may lose interest and wander off. So, but the focus for this 2 weeks, especially because the sun, which is part of this full moon, is in your house of money, which we'll talk about in a moment, but that seems to be where the focus is for you over this 2 weeks. Now, it's a different story, though, when we look at relationships that are already established, because the sun's making a trine to Uranus. And so you do have some really good energy for coming together with your partner and working on a new project together in harmony, or taking an old project and looking at it in a new way, but doing it together. So there is some good opportunities here to strengthen your love relationship and to make it more fun and exciting because you're doing that trine. Now, when it comes to home and family, actually there's no aspect between Pluto and the sun, and so it's just the south node in that area. And so you may find, especially with that Mercury retrograde, that you're slipping into some old routines, and maybe that is some old arguments with people that you live with, or maybe something you thought was fixed kind of breaks again, or just as I said that, the upstairs neighbor jumps into the shower and I can hear the noise. So, or this could be that you're just kind of in a rut at home, but because there's no aspect, it's hard to deal with it. So if you get an aspect over like in the next 2 weeks when we do the new moon, maybe you'll be breaking free of it. But again, I think most of your attention is just elsewhere. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mercury, which is retrograde, in your house of communications and contracts. And so this is some things that you've been working on for a while finally start to come back to you, which is great, but it's hard to sign contracts during a Mercury retrograde period. So now, if you're renegotiating a contract, or if this is some contract that you sign on a regular basis, then it's perfectly fine. Then you get in there during the retrograde knowing that, in 6 months or in a year or at some other point, probably when Mercury's retrograde, you'll be signing this type of contract again. So, but if this is something where you need to be quite precise, where you are concerned whether you're not going to, like if everything doesn't work perfectly or you might be unhappy, you might want to try and extend your negotiation time until Mercury goes direct. Now, back to the money part though, the Mercury retrograde is exceptionally good for bringing back clients that you had before, bringing back business opportunities you had before. And when you get one new client, you get a second new client. So because it tends to double everything. So I think that along with the Venus and the Sun in your house of money, it all spells something good. Now, it also can mean you're doing a lot of extra shopping, and because that Venus does like to spend money, so you do want to watch out for that. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury's not making an aspect with Neptune. Also, the full moon is there. So what you have is a big spotlight on basically what is working in the business and what needs to be changed, what is bringing you some profits in your investments, and what, through maybe fees or gyrations in the market, is not bringing you profits. So I'm not seeing you so much as, grabbing hold of profits this time, but more doing an assessment of things and making some adjustments. And that is what's going to bring you profits in the future. And then when it comes to money derived from career, which would be like a paycheck, Mars is in that house, and this is ruled by the Mercury that is retrograde. And so this means that something that was discussed before is now probably coming to fruition. So if you've already been talking to your supervisor about getting a raise or a promotion, now they're starting to say, okay, let's get this, the paperwork done, or let's get this on the books of when it's going to happen. If this is the first time you're talking about it, which you could do with these aspects, then they're probably going to bump you to maybe the end of the year, or they're going to try to delay it in some way, or they're going to say, yes, we're really enthusiastic, and then 2 minutes later they say we have to delay. And that's just the retrograde. And so you just roll with that, because that process could lead to a very favorable outcome. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Jupiter is making an opposition to Mercury, so you have some good energy here. This could mean that you are maybe getting ready to do something like a soft launch, to really test what you have to see if it's working. You might be gathering all the paperwork together, people who are looking to buy a business. Finally, you might get access to the paperwork. Of course, you won't want to make your final deal outside of that retrograde period, but this could be the time where you get access to all the information that you need, and you really start to make some progress. And even if that means going back over and editing your screenplay, or reviewing the different parameters of how you're going to launch. So this is the time to go back and look at all the little details and get those straight, so that when you are ready for the launch, it's going to be spectacular. Okay, Virgo, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of relationships, also partnerships, collaborations, and finding balance in your life. And so this is a Pisces full moon, and so it's removing boundaries between you and other people, as well as maybe removing the boundaries between the balance that you had in your life. In other words, you might have a boundary that says 5 p.m., you're done with work, and then it's 5:15, and then it's 6:15, and then it's 7:30, and then it's Saturdays. And this is the time where you wake up and notice, oh, wait, I'm working all the time. And that's when you say, I need to reestablish those boundaries again. And so this is either the time where the boundaries start to slip, or you notice that the boundaries slipped a long time ago and they're way out of whack. Now, when it comes, though, to relationships and partnerships, this is a highly intuitive placement. And so there might be that you are picking up not just your own nervousness about getting into a relationship, but their nervousness as well. And you may translate this into all of you, but not realizing that they're nervous also. So some of this is to recognize that things that you're picking up psychically need to be discussed in the real world, so that you can, get all of those feelings out on the table, so everybody knows what's going on. But this is also that, from a very positive standpoint, that because there's no barriers psychically, you can put out to a much wider group that you're looking for love, that you're looking for business partnerships, that you're looking for friendships. So this is where you send out kind of a global message psychically, looking for people whose charts connect to yours, because that's really what happens. I mean, we talk about marketing and, how we can reach a bigger audience and all of that, but in actuality, it's always because of a chart connection. Every person who watches these videos, who calls me for a reading, is because they have a chart connection with me. This is why a person resonates with what you say, or feels a connection, is because there's a chart connection. And so when you have this opportunity, that it just opens up for you so that you can psychically reach so many people, this is when you want to call your tribe, the tribe of friends or customers, or that one love that you're looking for. Now, when it comes to Mercury retrograde, it's retrograde in your house of money. So it's a time to look at your spending, your budgeting, your revenue sources, and start to assess whether everything is good. Is it happening in a way that it should? Are you keeping the budget? Are you staying on budget? But also, are the projects that you're working on that are bringing you some money, is it bringing you enough money, or should you be putting your time and energy into something else? So there's a lot of assessment going on with that retrograde. It also can bring money from some different sources, but we'll talk about that in a second. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, Mercury's not making an aspect with Saturn. And so there's the energies really that your attention is more on maybe making friends, maybe collaborating with people, and then a new love could emerge. But I think that if you shift that to just a general, like a being loving yourself, being a person who is welcoming and inclusive and approaching everybody with optimism and joy, you're going to find friends and collaborators and people who want to go out with you. And so that's the way to find new love, because you don't have a specific aspect right now for you searching for it. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, even though Mercury is not making an aspect with Neptune, one, it will, because Mercury's going backwards, but also the full moon is in that house. And so that means that there is a big light shining on this area. And so relationships are very important. Now, when it comes to your existing love relationship, it may take you a while to get to the root of a problem. So there may just be that you're just humming along at first, and then it gets a little bit bumpy, and then you get to work out the thing that was bothering you or bothering them. So that's how I see this progressing. So I think by the end of the 2 weeks, you've made a breakthrough, but at the beginning, you're kind of not paying attention to each other maybe enough. Now, when it comes to home and family, Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter, so we see a lot of activity in this area. So, and that could be related to, kids are now back at school, and so you have a different schedule. Maybe you're in school also. A lot of people feel like they should take some sort of educational courses during September. So that could be, I always feel a desire to study during September. And so that could be happening, but there might be a lot of activity, people coming and going, and just, things that need repairs and maintenance and stuff like that. There's nothing in the house itself. So all of this is more that you're kind of like you're passing by each other, but there's a lot of activity. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Venus, which is in the first house in your own sign of Virgo, which says that you make more money when you put your name on something. And so that is when you stand up at the meeting and say, this is the work I've done, is when you tell your boss or you put your name on the report. Or it's when you go out and promote your own business, your own products and services, maybe doing a video about them or putting your picture on an ad so that people see the person behind the products. So you also have Mercury retrograde in this house, which means that you are bringing in a lot of money from different opportunities. And this is like somebody who was considering buying from you in the past and now suddenly does buy from you, or somebody, maybe you were trying to sell something before and now the buyer comes through. And so money can come in from some sources that you were thinking it was going to come before. So that's money that was owed to you, or money that was almost there and didn't make it, and now it comes in. Now, this also can double money sources, and so one new customer could become two, and so that can be very helpful too. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Venus is making a square to Mars, and you have a lot of activity going on in these houses. So I think you're making more money than usual. It really looks like you are taking action, really focusing on bringing in more money, and that's really working at this time. So at that point, then the Mercury retrograde can help double those opportunities for upsells, or, somebody says, oh, I'm going to tell my cousin to buy this too. So you're getting more business than usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, however, and that would be a paycheck, the moon's not making an aspect to Venus. So That one is basically just going to be a waiting game. You can drop some hints, but I don't think your boss is really going to get it because there's no aspect happening. If you are looking for a new job, I think you may get an offer, but you'll have to do some salary negotiations. And then you might be trying to stretch this out so that you don't start until after October 2nd when Mercury goes direct. So this is more about, not the best time to ask for more money. You do look like you're working hard, but I think you're just making about the same as usual. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn. And so yeah, I see the confidence that you have. You're getting stronger and you're seeing a way through. But with the Mercury retrograde in your house of money, either the funding hasn't come through yet, or not enough has come through, or you're still reviewing all the paperwork and things like that, or still trying to figure out how this is going to work. And so right now, of course, this makes it difficult to launch anything, difficult to finish up a contract. And so mostly you're trying to just extend things out until we get to October. Okay, Libra, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of work, routines, health, and well-being. And this Pisces moon is removing the boundaries between you and that very physical effort. And so this is this idea that I think kind of flies in the face of what a lot of people believe. A lot of people like to think that when they're doing the spiritual work and, when they're in harmony with the energies, when they have the feng shui right, that nothing's supposed to go wrong. And that's not how it works. You can be enlightened and still have problems. It is that you look at the problems as growth opportunities and you look at the physical things that you have to do, the work you have to do, as something that is the privilege of being in a body. So this is that mindset from that old book, Chop Wood, Carry Water, which is this kind of Zen idea of finding peace and joy and harmony in these mundane activities. And so you may have a very visceral reaction to what I'm saying. Like, you're like, I can't stand doing dishes. I get it. I hate doing dishes too. So, and yet we can find that joy of being present in that moment, of you can really chunk down to, what the water feels like, and then how the soap slides, etc. Or you can come up to another level to say, in gratitude, yay, I have water running in the house. I have dishes, I have food. And then from even that level of saying, and physically I'm able to do these things. And so shifting the mindset from this everything's mundane and everything's hard to these spiritual, joyful, mindful activities is what this full moon is about. Now, this also is about health and well-being, and so it's shining a light there. And so it's very much about using prayer and meditation and all of that to help heal your body, along with all of the medical or physical things you're doing. And so it's to not forget about those things, that those things work also and can help you speed healing. And so that would be like visualization and affirmations and meditation and taking care of yourself that way. And so that's what this full moon is about for you. Now, the Mercury is retrograde, first in your own sign of Libra. Later, it will go back into Virgo. So for this 2-week period, because this is the chart and it has Mercury in Libra, the focus is really on you taking a step back, reassessing your life, asking yourself, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Is this the best way to do something? It's looking at how, if you have slipped back into a place of a lack of confidence, a lack of self-assuredness, if you have stopped taking care of yourself through exercise. So, and then, of course, Mercury says reassess that. It also, on a more physical or mundane level, can make you really want to get a haircut, color your hair, get a piercing, a tattoo, or something like that. Just recognize if you're getting anything permanent, it is Mercury retrograde. You may change your mind later. If it's a hairstyle, of course, the hair can grow out. So, but if it's a tattoo, be careful because that can be pretty permanent. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Venus is not making an aspect to Uranus. So basically your energy is much more on self-care than it is about caring for others. And so that can kind of hamper looking for somebody. So over this next 2 weeks, I think that the focus is more on you realigning yourself, and that may attract somebody outside the 2-week period. Or if you are already talking to someone, you may find that your schedules just don't line up, and so that you have to see each other for the first time outside the 2-week period. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the energy is entirely different because Venus is making a square to Mars, so there's a lot of activity going on. And this means that you could be taking your relationship to the next level, talking about moving in together, getting engaged, getting married, talking about wedding plans, talking about how you want to raise the kids. So there's a lot of activity going on. If this relationship has some cracks in it, if it's already kind of brittle, this can bring some arguments. And so you'll have to be a little bit careful about stepping into an old argument because Mercury is retrograde. So just be aware of that because, when Venus and Mars come together, it's somebody not happy because they didn't get what they wanted, or somebody who is doing something that the other person feels is impeding what they want. So this can be a contentious aspect. I do like very much that the Jupiter is in the house of relationships, and so that does put a little of umbrella of protection around, giving you an opportunity to work things out. When it comes to home and family, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn, and so that is that the activities are kind of just going along by rote. It's just, this is what we do, and so we're just going to keep doing it. And so that means that that it's just not a lot of energy to use in this area. Everything, the other areas of your life are using up all the energy, especially, things like work, taking care of your health, and looking at your existing love relationship. Okay, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Pluto, which is still in your 4th house of home, family, also real estate. And so you do have just a couple of years left. If you're going to make any sort of home business or agreement for a family business or something like that, this is where you have the strongest energy, is doing something like that. You still have a few years, so you don't have to do it over this next 2 weeks. But you just want to keep in mind that you want, if this is something you want to work on, you only have a few years left. So you also pull money, though, from that Mars, which is in Gemini, and it's going to stay in Gemini until March 25th of 2023. So a very long time. Now, this is in your house of international relations, so there might be an international business that you can get going. Also, though, something about teaching, writing, publishing, marketing. And so the focus is about if you're marketing, and that can be through social media or some sort of paid marketing, this is what is going to bring you money and opportunities. And even if you work for somebody else, it would be marketing yourself on LinkedIn, by having a robust profile, by making connections, etc. So that's where your source of money is and will be for months yet to come. Now, when it comes to traditional investments and money from a business, Venus is not making an aspect with Pluto, but it is making a square to Mars. And so that is that there is some definite opportunities to grab hold of some profits, to find a really great investments, or to expand your business. So this is a time where you do want to make a push, even though that Mercury is retrograde, which will cause you some delays. as you try to push forward. This is a time where you want to push to see how much you can move that goalpost. Do you ever move goalposts? Probably not. I don't think that's the right analogy. You just want to push, because it's that shoot for the stars and hit the mountaintops. I even think I got that one wrong. Okay. So I am going to get through this, though. So this is Venus square Mars, fabulous aspect. You do want to push, though, to get what you want. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, like a paycheck, well, the sun is not making an aspect with Pluto. Again, it's making a square to Mars. So this is your time to go knock on your supervisor's door and say, let's set up a time to talk about my future here, talk about raises. If you are looking for another job, you can definitely negotiate a higher salary. So this is a really good time, again, to push the goalpost or whatever we're supposed to be pushing. And finally, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Pluto and Mars are not making an aspect to Saturn or Uranus. And so that much, and of course, Mercury's retrograde. It just means bide your time. This is not the time to be launching something big or taking huge profits or jumping into something. The Mercury retrograde in your own sign says that right there, but then this kind of collaborates that. So it is to be extra cautious when it comes to risky investments. A little bit of speculation here or there is possible, but I don't think you're going to get the profits until outside this 2-week period. Okay, Scorpio, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of creativity, taking risks, having fun, as well as new love. So when we look at the Pisces moon, what it's doing is it's removing the boundaries between you and something else. And so when we look at creativity, this means you could be opened up to really see or envision what the creative project is that you want to do or how to do it. You could be tapping into a spiritual muse to inspire you to, produce more. So all of that is great. When it comes to pleasure, though, that's where it may get a little bit fuzzy. Like you might be asking yourself, what is fun? What kind of fun am I having? This might have been fun before, but now it's not fun. Why is that? And so you might be exploring this. You also might be gravitating towards something. Now, the Pisces would be, for things that are fun that I could think of, would be things like theater, acting, music, especially something that is, kind of melodious and, that carries you away. Things like painting and clay, but clay not in a sense of hard, not like sculpture, but more like where you're doing something with soft and squishy and you're molding it into something. So this area is also about romance. And so that is, if you are looking for romance, then it is to put yourself in that mindset. And maybe you'll decorate your bedroom in this really romantic way, or maybe you'll start to do things that are more on a romantic nature in your relationships, like leaving little notes or bringing flowers, things like that. So, but this is also about breaking down the barriers between you and the love you want. And while we'll talk about new love more in a second, this is about recognizing that as you put yourself out there in a loving manner to the world, like attracts like. And so then, therefore, you meet lots of new people and you connect to lots of, new souls. And this way you find some soul that resonates with your own. Now, Mercury is retrograde in your house of intuition, psychic ability, but also sleep. And it's that area where you can want to escape. And so going back to the psychic ability, this is where you are picking up things and information from people more than usual. And so that is, if you are dating, you might pick up their nervousness and even think it's your own nervousness when in actuality it's them that's putting off that nerves or that is exuding that nervousness. It's this Mercury retrograde can bring your thoughts back to spiritual practices where you want to do more meditation or look at honing your intuition. And so this is probably a good time to tell you that I have a tarot course that I have finished that is available. And so if you want to learn to do something with the tarot as a way to untap your intuition, then consider that course. The link is in the description. So then when we look at sleep and dreams, you might be keeping a dream journal. You might look at your bedroom and how it's set up to make sure that you can get restful sleep, making the room dark, making it cool, keeping out maybe noise or interruptions. But I think the biggest thing for this is that Mercury retrograde in that 12th house means slipping back into some of the escapes, addictions, or habits that you have probably fought very hard to stop doing, and now they're back. And that could be an addiction to TV or sugar or some sort of substance. And so if you catch yourself kind of slipping back into that, you just say, it's Mercury retrograde, and then just stop doing it and go forward again. So that's the thing to pay attention to when Mercury is retrograde in your 12th. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, this is probably one of the best periods of time that you've had in a while because, of course, Neptune is making a sextile to Pluto, but the new moon is there. And so this is like there's a spotlight on you now, and so you are more easily seen. So this is a good time to tell other people that you're looking for a relationship, to go out on dates, to put yourself on an online profile or an online dating site. So to do things to capitalize on that positive energy. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, Pluto's not making an aspect with Venus. And, with the Uranus still there, and it will be there a while, there can be even some contentious energy. So you want to kind of be aware that maybe your partner is grumpy about something, or, you're at your last straw about something, and you're looking for a hug, and you get, instead of the hug, you get advice. So being aware of telling your partner what you want and being aware and listening to what they want, because it's not going to be so obvious this time because there's no aspect. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from that Jupiter that is in your house of work, and that means that if you work at your money, you will get some amazing results. This also means that there's a possible new job, that a side job can start paying you money. It means that what you're doing can expand. And so there are some big money opportunities for you this time. Now, when we look at traditional investments or money from your business, not only is Mercury making an opposition to Jupiter, but also Mars is there. And Mars is going to be going through your house of resources and money from business between now and March 25th. I mean, that's huge. That's a very long time that you get Mars in this house where you can actively be working on this. So I do see you making more money than usual over the next 2 weeks, but this is just the beginning. You have so much potential here, and you want to put your energy into this because Mars is technically your co-ruler. And so that is in your house of resources. That means that the world is opening up, and you need to start making the negotiations or the agreements because you have between now and the end of March to really make stuff happen. Now, you also have some really good energy when it comes to money derived from career. That would be like a paycheck. And so because Venus and the Sun are there, and you're getting that opposition between Mercury and Jupiter. So that means when you ask, you may absolutely receive. So even though Mercury is retrograde, what's more probable is you've already started the process of asking, and now things are starting to happen. Or you started the process of asking, and this is your reminder, and they say, oh, yeah, we meant to do that, and now we can do that. So that is that I do think that you'll be making more money very soon, and it could be within this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Even though Jupiter is not making an aspect to Neptune, this is where the full moon is. So we have a huge spotlight on this area right now. And that means that whatever has been hidden from you can be seen. So that is, terms and conditions that you'd missed before, or the due diligence that you're trying to do, but you couldn't get a hold of the paperwork. Now that can come through. Maybe you're starting to see some patterns in some of the investments that you've made. And I should say that Mercury retrograde can really disrupt the markets because it's a time where people rethink decisions. And so that can cause a bunch of people to buy or a bunch of people to sell. So there is definitely some big opportunities for you in this area. Now, while you may not want to launch a new product or launch a business during Mercury retrograde, you could get everything poised and ready to do that. And then launch in October. Okay, Sagittarius, you guys are doing this full moon in your house of a home, family. That includes dwellings, connections with ancestors, and basically your foundation. And this Pisces moon tends to dissolve things. So on a plus side, this dissolves some of the barriers that you have with people you're living with. And so your teens start to open up to you. You find out things that are going on. And so especially, like in the neighborhood, but mostly with family and extended family. So that part's all good. It can dissolve the boundaries of where, how you're living too. Maybe you're doing more indoor, outdoor, maybe it's cooled off enough where you are so that you're spending more time outdoors. And so the boundaries of the house are dissolving. So this could be that your connection with ancestors is getting stronger, that boundary is dissolving as well. And so you're, feeling grandma's presence, you're hearing the words of your great uncle. So that those things all can be very useful. It can cause you to start to feel like maybe it's time to be finishing up with this house. Maybe this is a time where you're starting to think about moving. And while moving during Mercury retrograde can be problematic, once you do it once, it starts to happen over and over again. And so if you're moving during this time, you probably moved on a previous retrograde, and that's why it's happening again. So if you can avoid moving on Mercury retrograde, that's great. But if you can't, just recognize that, you will probably want to move on future retrogrades. It doesn't mean you have to, but you'll feel like you want to. So if you're having those feelings now, it's just that you probably moved on a retrograde previously, and now you have that itch to move. And so you might be house hunting a little bit. You might be looking at, maybe doing some pre-packing or decluttering, stuff like that. Now, Mercury is retrograde in your house of friendships, community, also technology. So let's start with that one. The technology part with Mercury retrograde, they just don't get along. And so there can be just one bug after another with whatever computer that you're using. And unless the computer completely dies, you may want to try and tough it out, because the moment Mercury goes forward again, the problems just clear up like magic. So some of it's that. Sometimes the retrograde Mercury brings us trouble so that we can pay attention to something. And so stop and ask yourself, what is the universe trying to tell me with, when your computer doesn't load or you're getting a blue screen or something like that. Now, this is also in your area of friendships and community. And so you may be rethinking your membership in an organization, or you might be considering taking a leadership role when you hadn't before. This is also about friendships, and so you might be getting together with people you haven't seen in a long time. You might be reconnecting with friends. People out of the blue will call you during this time, and this can be friendships and somebody who was a romantic interest who now wants to be a friend, or somebody who was a friend and now wants to be a romantic interest. Did I say it both ways? I don't know if I did, but I think you know what I mean. So it's people from the past can come and find you, and you may feel very compelled to go look for, people you knew in high school, people you knew in college, and reach out to them. That's them. They are receiving that Mercury retrograde energy. Now, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Mars is making a lovely sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter's in that house, so you have an opportunity. Now, what's really important with a sextile is that you initiate the action. You take the action, and then great things happen. But if you don't take the action, it just goes by without anything happening. You cannot sit and wait for the other person to take action on a sextile. So, but this is, if you reach out, if you suggest the date, if you pick the place, if you take the first action, then you get a lovely response. So good energy for you for the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to existing love relationship, you have a lot of energy, and you're going to have it for a while because Mars is going through your house of relationships, and because Mars is going to go retrograde, it's going to be there between now and March 25th. So that is a very long time. Additionally, Mercury is making an opposition to Jupiter, so you have a lot of energy for working out problems, finding compromises, finding a way to balance each other's needs, like, okay, this time we'll do what I want to do, next time we'll do what you want to do. So now Mars can occasionally make things a little bit contentious because Mars is naturally competitive. So you do have to kind of watch out for that, being that you have that Sagittarius energy, you get excited about, opportunities, sometimes about competitive opportunities. And so you can really jump in, and your partner may not be so excited about that. But in general, what this Mars is going to do is, bring you enthusiasm and energy for working on your love relationship. Now, when it comes to home and family, even though the Jupiter's not making an aspect to Neptune, that's where the full moon is. So this is where most of the energy for the 2-week period is, and that is you're paying attention to your home. It's lit up, and something, because this is the full moon and going to go into a waning period, this is where you are looking at what you can let go of, what you're finished with. And so that is perfect for some decluttering. Maybe your kid's gone off to school, but they kept coming back and forth, and now you're seeing them a little less and you're letting go of them. So, or that you are letting go of some other aspects that are connected with the house. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Saturn, which we haven't talked about much in this full moon energy, but this Saturn is moving closer and closer to that no partile square with Uranus. No partile means they're not going to be exact. It's going to be like they're going to graze each other. But they're getting close, and it brings back all the memories of the exact square that we have had previously. We had it 3 times previously. And so that is this energy is to take what is built, what you think is solid, and deconstruct it so that you can reconstruct it in a different way. And so that might be, looking at your back office of your business and saying, is this the best system for us? Just maybe looking at how you handle money in general. Is this type of budget good for me? Or should I do something that's on paper versus on a computer? Should it be all cash versus debit cards or credit cards? So it's taking something that you think seems pretty solid, but taking it apart so that you can put it together in a better way. And that's what's going to bring you money. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Saturn's making a semi-sextile to the moon. And so there are some opportunities, but it's only after you handle the small little nitty-gritty details, the things you don't want to stop to do, but you have to, because when you do, that's when good things happen. So that is that, you just have to call this customer and then they're going to place a big order, or you just have to send out a few emails. The inclination that you have is to, you don't want to do that, but when you do, you make more money. Now, when it comes to money from your career, and that would be like a paycheck, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn, plus the retrograde Mercury is there. And so that means that you're going to kind of get the same answer you've gotten in the past, and that is probably wait. They, even if they think that you are deserving of the raise, either they don't have the budget or it's just not the time of year that they give raises. There's going to be some sort of excuse. So you probably want to wait until outside the retrograde period, of course, especially outside this 2-week period. So you may want to wait till October and see if the aspects line up so that you can ask for a raise. And then finally, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they are highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn. So you've got Jupiter there. This means that you have still some luck, and that is you can roll along with what you've been working on. But this is probably a point where you just want to do if you're buying, you buy and hold. If you are in the process of buying a business, you just keep plugging along at it. If you are working on your art portfolio to put out on Etsy, you don't want to do a big launch on Mercury retrograde anyway. So this is just keep working on things, work on the systems, work on the art itself, because you will be ready at some point, and hopefully then Mercury will be direct and it'll be time to launch. Okay, Capricorn, you guys are doing this full moon in Pisces in your house of thinking process, communication. It also is area of your vehicle, neighborhood, siblings. And so let me touch on those things real quick. And that is that you because it's a full moon, you may have this feeling that you are done with something in your life. And so that is, that you really enjoy your vehicle, but maybe it's time to start thinking about another vehicle. Of course, Mercury is retrograde, not a great idea unless you absolutely have to. Don't buy a car on Mercury retrograde. It's just try to wait. If you absolutely have to, I understand. Like if it's transportation or no transportation, I get it. It's in the United States, most places we just need a car, and so that's how that works. But this full moon is putting your attention on that. And so maybe you can talk to neighbors or friends about getting rides, etc. There may be some interesting energy around siblings or neighbors. And so if something has been contentious in the past, it could erupt in more of this difficult energy. Or this could be the opportunity for you both to see the other person's side, to be empathetic and to connect. But mostly what this is shining a light on is your own thinking process, how you're collecting information and what you're doing with that information. Because right now, the boundaries between you and all knowledge in the universe have dissolved. And that means that you may be, the good side is you have access to all the answers, anything that you want. The bad side is you can go in and get all of the information that's overwhelming. And so it's important at this time to look at what you're paying attention to, because that is affecting you on a very deep subconscious level. And so and it's unfortunate because there's so much negativity out there, but if all you're listening to is negative and doom and gloom and all of that, then it's understandable why you are looking at the world thinking this is terrible. Whereas if you can shift that to something that is helpful and creative and positive, you're going to find that there's so many opportunities out there. Money opportunities, friendship opportunities, love opportunities, so much out there, but it takes a different mindset. And so that's what this is about. So, and just mindset in general is very, very helpful when you're doing a full moon in your house of thinking process. And that is, are you practicing a growth mindset where any sort of obstacles are seen as a growth opportunity? Or are you practicing a fixed mindset where you are taking some sort of obstacle as a sign that you should not move forward? So, and I know it's hard sometimes to tell the difference between, what's a sign that I should stop versus what's a sign, what is just a growth opportunity. And that is, you have to kind of look at how long you've been doing something and the nature of the quote unquote sign. And that is, like if you knock on a door, you maybe send your resume off to someone and they send you back a no, we're not hiring, we're not interested. That is just a closed door. But if you send your resume off to somebody and they don't respond, they may not have gotten it. That's not a sign to give up. That's just maybe send them an email, see if there's another way to contact them. Make sure they got your resume before you say, okay, they're not interested. So this is something we probably have to talk about in much more detail. So if you're quite interested in this idea of signs versus growth, put a comment in the comment section, and if there's enough, I will put together some videos on how to read those from the chart. Now, where was I? Oh, Mercury's retrograde also, and it's in retrograde in your house of career. And so this means that there's something that is changing in your career. And this is something that maybe they were talking about a while back. And now it's starting to happen, or this is something that they've started to mention and they say this is going to happen and then it doesn't happen. And that's the interesting thing. When somebody makes a big announcement during Mercury retrograde, all I say is just wait, because they're going to have to backtrack that big announcement at some point. So this might also be a time where you're thinking about moving on to a different company. And so if you've been thinking about this in the past, then the Mercury retrograde is bringing you back to consider it. So then work on your resume, start to beef up your LinkedIn profile, stuff like that. But if this is something where you're ready to jump ship and it's Mercury retrograde, see if you can do it outside the retrograde period, if at all possible. Because once you change jobs during Mercury retrograde, every time the Mercury goes retrograde, you have this kind of itch, like you want to change jobs again. Okay, when it comes to relationships, specifically new love, Venus is not making an aspect with Saturn. These two guys, they're going to line up pretty soon, but in this 2 weeks, it really looks like your attention is elsewhere. And maybe that is getting your mindset in a good place. So with your that full moon in your house of thinking process, this is you looking at how you communicate both to yourself and to others and dissolving the boundaries that you have about that. So again, there's no aspect right now, so that would mean that as you're looking out there, you're not really feeling a connection, or if you meet somebody, your schedules don't sync up, and so you're probably meeting someone outside this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, the moon's making a semi-sextile to Saturn. And so there is some activity here. It may be a little contentious. And that is because one of you wants to stop and take care of something and the other wants to move forward. But the energy is most positive when you both pause and take care of what is ever necessary. And this could be, an old disagreement that comes up, or just a miscommunication, or maybe your partner doesn't like the way you communicated something, and just deal with it in the moment. That is going to bring you the most success. Now, when it comes to home and family, Mars is not making an aspect with Saturn. Jupiter's there, so there is activity, and you have that full moon in your house of neighbors. And so there's definitely activity going on, but the focus, again, isn't so centered on family, unless it's siblings, because, that's where the moon is. But otherwise, in general, the people you lived with, it's not so contentious. It just looks really busy, but it's mostly because you don't have time or energy to focus on it right now. You're just doing other things. All right, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money both from that Saturn and Uranus, and these two are going to line up again in that no partile square. And that indicates that there is something that either you had worked on it before and it didn't quite come together and now it can come together, or you were taking something you've done before, reconstructing it into something that's going to be more profitable. So some big opportunity is happening, and so you want to pay attention to the opportunities that come to you, because if they don't look right, you can renegotiate them or use, part of this opportunity with that opportunity and build something else. So that's where you want to get a little bit creative when it comes to your money. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, you're making more than usual because the sun is making a lovely trine to that Uranus. So that is really good energy. This is lining up closer and closer to make a trine with Pluto. That big trine it's not yet. It's actually coming in a couple years. I know sometimes these planets move slowly, but there's going to be a point where I say to you, oh my gosh, there's something so big, such an opportunity. And so you want to start planting the seeds for that now. And that is, how can you scale your business? How can you look at your investments and see where, how can you more regularly be depositing into investments, or, how do you diversify your portfolio so it's stronger, that sort of thing, because yeah, you have a really good opportunity coming up in the future, and over the next 2 weeks, you look like you're making more than usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, like a paycheck, you are not, it's not so good because the planets aren't lining up. Pluto and Mars are not lining up with Saturn and Uranus. And so, plus you only have the South node there, and Mercury's retrograde in your house of career. So this is just not the time to be asking for a raise. If you do, they're just going to say, nope, you have to wait till next year. You have to wait till the end of the year. They're just going to tell you have to wait. So it does look like you have opportunities to be discussing with someone about a new job or a new position. But again, I don't think that's manifesting quite yet. I think that will manifest later, probably October or November. And then when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. You have to be a little bit careful when Mercury is retrograde anyway, even though Mercury's only remotely affecting this, and that is that Venus is in Virgo, and Virgo is ruled by that Mercury retrograde in Libra, and so they're in mutual reception. And so that's why I bring it up. And that is, there's no aspect happening between Venus and Uranus. There's no aspect happening between Venus and Saturn. I had to check. I have to check. Hold on. Yeah, there's no. I was thinking, yeah, but there's no. So that is that something that looks too good to be true really, really is. It's not going to pan out as they're saying. It's not going to give you near the returns they were saying. This is not a great time to be launching something big and important. You can do soft launches. You can do some test marketing, market research, all of that. But this is not the time for the big ta-da. So that is coming up. So, right now it's just nose to the grindstone to get everything set up and get things tested to make sure your shopping cart works, all of those sort of things. That's a good use for this energy. Otherwise, if somebody's making you an offer at this time, it may not pan out even remotely, as they say. Okay, Aquarius, you guys are doing this full moon, lighting up your house of money and values. This is also about the stuff that you have. And so this is where you may actually think that you have reached peak stuff, that you have enough stuff, you don't need any more. And so this might be a time where you're looking at, organizing your stuff, grouping like items, finding out you have 5 pairs of scissors or things like that. And you may start that process of letting go, because now we're going to go into 2 weeks of the waning time. So, but mostly what this is used for is dissolving the boundary between you and money in the world. And that is for you to shift your mindset to look for abundant opportunities versus being in a scarcity mindset. And that is that if you start to consider just how many opportunities there are, especially nowadays, with the internet and your ability to reach anyone throughout the world, and also to get any amount of skills, because there is so much information out there. This is where you dissolve the boundary of saying, oh, I can't, or it's too hard, or I don't want to. You dissolve that boundary, and then opportunities are there. So one little exercise that you might consider is when you're just in your car driving, start to just count how many people are around you. All of these people are potential customers or hiring managers or opportunities for you to make money. So that it's just so vast, so many, many opportunities. And so this is where you start to say, all right, I can reach these people. And that is through, start with meditation and affirmations and do those spiritual things to put yourself into that abundance mindset. So, and then also because it is this full moon in Pisces, you may also be looking at your finances and saying, oops, I have not been keeping my budget. I have not been writing down what I've been spending. And so that's where you suddenly say, oh yeah, I dissolved, whatever system there was, you dissolved that, and then you don't have a system anymore. And so it's time to reestablish a system. And to look at the system that you had and why did that dissolve? Sometimes systems dissolve on their own just because we get busy, but sometimes it's because the system isn't really that effective and you need to adjust it in some way. Now, when we look at the Mercury retrograde, it's in your house of education, legal matters, travel, international things. So when it comes to education, maybe you're back in school, now maybe the kids are back in school, and now you're thinking about doing school yourself. And so this might be a time to look at maybe the video courses you've already bought and going through those. Ask yourself why you're not doing those. Or did you get the piece of information that you needed? Do you need to move on to something else? But mostly Mercury retrograde means go back over something from the before. It also can be that, that you are traveling to a place you've been before, or you're reaching out to someone who is international and you're reconnecting with them. So this is a good time if you have expat friends and family members to reach out to them to, make sure that connection is strong. Additionally, this is about legal matters, and that can be anything from a lawsuit, which with Mercury retrograde could mean delays, or that paperwork is not filed on time, or that there's some sort of turnover, like, you thought you were losing and now you're winning. But mostly this, when we talk about legal matters, this is like getting building permits, getting a professional license, getting something to make you official so that you can do whatever business or, build whatever you want. So that's where you could run into some problems because of the retrograde, because everybody who has been thinking about doing this now rushes to be in line in front of you. And so that means a long line at DMV, the passport office, a line to get your real estate license, any of these things, just be prepared to wait a long time. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, even though Mercury is not making an aspect to Uranus, Mars is there and it's in Gemini, which is ruled by that Mercury retrograde. So instead of new love, this could bring somebody from your past who wants to start up a relationship with you again. Now, it could be a friend who now wants to be a lover, or it could be somebody that you dated in the past who wants to give it another try. Mars is going to be in this house until next March, and so you have many opportunities, but it's quite strong now because that Mars, which again is ruled by that Mercury, is making a trine to that Mercury. So there's some good activity and energy here for new love. When it comes to existing love relationships, it's also good news because the sun is making a trine to Uranus. And so the two of you are coming together in more harmony. The sun is in your house of intimacy. Venus is there also. So you're getting together, behind closed doors a little bit more often. Maybe you're more playful with each other. It's more romantic. So this is some really good energy. I'm liking what I'm seeing. The only thing that you need to be aware of is with Mercury retrograde, if you have an argument, you could have two, or you could slip back into an old argument that was actually solved before, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe there was some residual anger. And so that's the only thing to be a little bit aware of. Now, when it comes to home and family, Venus is not making an aspect with Uranus, and it looks mostly like there's changes at home going on, of course, because Uranus is going through there. But because they're not making an aspect, the changes are happening with other people in the house, but not necessarily you. So the kids are going off to school, but your routine stays the same. Or, two siblings are fighting and you're watching this, but you're going to let them work it out. So a lot of the changes that are happening at home, somebody else is taking care of. Now, when it comes to your money, you are pulling money from the Neptune as well as the Jupiter, which are inching closer together for that conjunction. Very exciting. But this is, of course, the full moon is in this house lighting this up. So you have more money opportunities. And this is not so much new sources of money, but things you have thought of in the past or things you've worked on in the past. And now you need to bring them up to your full attention or to let other people know about them. And so doing marketing and things like that during Mercury retrograde can be risky because it's real easy to send out something without the right link or send out something that has misspellings. But once you make that correction, the nice thing about it is if you get one person, you get two, or somebody orders double, or they order multiple times during the process of the retrograde. So I think there's some really good money opportunities for you, especially over the next 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to traditional investments or money from your business, Mercury is not making an aspect to Neptune. Yeah, that's correct. I had to check. But the Sun and Venus are there. So it's really interesting. I think you're making about the same as usual. And that's because even though you're making more money seems to be going out. And so that is perhaps you are doing some investments. Perhaps there is some, annual bills that are coming due. Or you're finding other things to invest in. So you're just reinvesting your profits really quickly. So the energy is good. It's just you're ending up with about the same as usual. Now, when it comes to money derived from career, so like a paycheck, Jupiter's not making an aspect with Neptune quite yet. So it's still not quite time to really, say to the boss, I really need a raise. Plus the South Node is up there in your house of career. So everything's just ticking along as normal. I see you making about the same as usual. If you are in some sort of negotiations already for getting a raise, you need to change it up a little bit. That South Node in the 10th house says that you're doing things in the same old way, and you need to shift what you're doing to get better results. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. You are, of course, that house is ruled by that Mercury retrograde. So something is coming back as an opportunity. I think that this might be that something you've been working on a while and now you get new information and that helps you make a decision or gives you a negotiating point. Mars is in that house, which is definitely interacting with that Mercury. The Jupiter and the Neptune haven't, those two haven't quite lined up for some big payday, but they will. And when that happens, you'll be all ready. So what I think is you are moving forward, but there's some new piece of information or something that you're working on that causes you to have to pause or work a little bit more diligently at. And once that's cleared up, you'll be moving forward. So I think you are doing about the same as usual in this area. Okay, Pisces, this is your full moon. And so this means that you are halfway through your lunar year. And so this is the time, this is the party time. So all of the seed planting and seed tending and all of that you've been doing. Now you have basically 3 months of harvest time, and then you will do 3 months of seed saving or planning for the next lunar year. So because this is the height of your lunar year and the beginning of the harvest time, this is a time for you to be looking at how you can capitalize on what you know already, the contacts that you have already, and that's for anything in your life. That is for you saying, okay, I want to meet somebody new for love. Who do I know who's a good matchmaker? Who do I know who has a lot of friends that I haven't met yet? So looking at those sort of things. This is also about your confidence in moving forward. So if you are not at the height of your confidence for the year, then you need to ask yourself why. What is holding you back? And see if you can dissolve that block. The Pisces energy is something you own. And so you know that you can take something and see through that thing to see that it's not as solid as people say, that there's always a way through something. So this is something you want to work on. If you feel a block, it's time for you to start to see the ways through that block. And oftentimes, this type of block, when it comes to confidence, is based on you thinking that something absolutely must happen. And that would be, I absolutely have to be perfect. I absolutely have to present myself perfectly, or I have to stay, this young forever. Things that, when you do absolutes, it can't happen because they're absolutes. And so switching that mindset from absolutes to preferences, I would prefer to do things correctly. I would prefer to be at the top of my game. I would prefer to, continue to look this way, things like that. That's the thing that can get you past the block. Now, when we look at Mercury retrograde, it's in your house of resources. So that's where resources are coming back to you. So everything from somebody saying, I will help you with your online dating profile to I will help you start a business, but also resources in the area of finance. So that is maybe you applied for some loans, you got some no's, but now you have, some more money in the bank, or you have better credentials, or you have somebody else to ask. So this is where you go back and say, I need these resources. Please give these to me. And so that's why the Mercury is there. So you will ask again. It is also about shifting of power. So, and that is taking your own power back. So, because Mercury retrograde means, that something is returning to you. And so taking your own power back is to say that you have choice, that you don't have to just go along with what other people say. You can negotiate or you can move on. So this is what the Mercury retrograde is bringing for you. Now, when it comes to love relationships, specifically new love, you have some really good energy because full moon in your first house means that basically all that light is on you. The sun is sitting in your house of relationships, plus the moon is making a conjunction to Neptune. So everything here says this is one of the best opportunities for meeting somebody new. And so you really want to capitalize on that. Tell your friends to fix you up on blind dates and then really go on them. Don't put it off. If you reach out to somebody through an online dating site, say, let's meet, let's get together, let's at least get on the phone or do a video conference. So, really kind of push it. I know that's challenging during Mercury retrograde because schedules can get a little wonky, but if you push it, I think that you have a great opportunity to meet somebody during this 2-week period. Now, when it comes to existing love relationships, you have good energy because of that full moon energy in your relationship houses, plus Venus is there. The issue is with that Mercury retrograde, an old argument or old point of contention could come back. That Venus is making it's in mutual reception with that Mercury, and that is where everything's going along swimmingly, and then you say, my partner knows I hate when they put the forks upside down in the dishwasher. Oh, how could they do this to me? Rather than just saying, oh, look, they did this. I'll just turn them right side up or upside down or whichever one you prefer. So your relationship can go really well unless you get tripped up by some old argument that for some reason you're holding on to and wanting to bring up versus just letting go. Now, when it comes to home and family, this is, there's a lot of activity because even though Mercury's not making an aspect to Neptune, Mars is in Gemini in that house. So that's just busy things happening. And that Mercury retrograde rules that Mars because it's in Gemini. So this means lots and lots of activity. Maybe you're a bit on the sidelines because there's no aspect to the Neptune. So maybe you're just more watching the activity, people doing things, workmen doing things, kids coming and going. So, and you're just kind of observing from the sidelines. So, but a lot of activity at home, and most of it good. A little bit points of contention between family members, but you don't have to be in it unless you want to be. Now, when it comes to your money, you're pulling money from that Mars that we were just talking about in your house of home and family. So there's a couple of things here. And that is, of course, there could be some business opportunities or money opportunities directly through family. And that is pooling resources together to get investments or, having your sister work for you, having your brother make you a website, etc. So there's those more obvious things. And then there's also that this is in your house of real estate. So there may be some things that you can do with your existing home or buying real estate to make you money. But also this is taking a look at your upbringing and the attitudes that were in the household about money and making sure that those are conducive to you making money. If you're the first entrepreneur in your family, you may hold yourself back because you think that you are breaking a family norm. Or maybe this is that your family has a very negative idea about money, and so that you tend to slip into that. So looking at family patterns and, of course, dissolving those, because this is that Pisces full moon, that would be very helpful at this time. Now, when it comes to money from traditional investments or money from your business, things are looking very good. Mars is making a square to Venus, and that Mercury retrograde could bring you back repeat customers or customers who want to order extra. And so there is some real possibilities of making more money over the next 2 weeks than usual. Now, when it comes to money from career, and that would be like a paycheck, it is a different story because Mars is not making an aspect to Saturn. And it looks like because it's not lined up that either your boss is not easy to reach or they're just going to put you off, that Mercury retrograde in your house of resources would say, here, we'll give you a gift card instead of a raise, it's stuff like that. And they may give you something, but you're not getting exactly what you want. I think you're going to want to wait until that Mars lines up, which it will do. So you are going to find there's some opportunities that are coming up pretty soon. But in the meantime, you want to just bide your time and take the gift card. Now, when it comes to risky investments, and these are the things that take a lot of time, energy, or money to get going, they're highly leveraged or time sensitive. Mars is making a square to the moon, so you have some great energy and opportunities. Now, while it is difficult to launch a big project during Mercury retrograde, you can make really good strides in getting everything ready for launch. And that is, getting all the software in place or getting contracts ready to be signed, or to, find people and start interviewing people, get products, pictures done for a website, or get the final touches on your script. So lots and lots you can do. And there are some possibilities for having some profits during this time as well. So the energy is good. I think with the Mercury retrograde, it's going to probably put a damper on a big launch, but definitely some small opportunities are here for you. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned because LaRue wants to say hi.